All right. Hey guys, welcome to 30 Minutes of Wisdom. This show is about rising in consciousness and connecting to your most authentic self. And to help us not only survive, but thrive through uncertain times, we have created a space for conversations that are rooted in wisdom and higher consciousness. And today I'm excited that we're talking about heart math. And Paola here happens to be certified in HeartMath. So I would love for Paola to explain to us, just in layman terms, what is HeartMath?
Thank you, Lynn. Hello, everyone. Um, yeah, I was very attracted to the conversation of heart math. There was a woman that I learned from one time, and she was explaining this connection of brain and heart and how the brain has intelligence on its own. And Heart Math is an institute in California that's been studying the heart for more than 2 decades, maybe even three. And what they have discovered is that your heart has neurons, that your heart is emitting information all the time. In fact, the information that your heart is sending is way more powerful than the information that our brain sends. That the electromagnetic field or the potency of our heart is greater, way greater than our brains. Now we have been trained in this life to think that this is the boss, that everything needs to be figured out from our brains. And what they have found out is that your heart has the capacity to even predict what's about to happen. So it has that ability of intuition, and that this should be the boss. And these are not the words of a HeartMath Institute, but this is how I interpret it. The heart must be the boss and this must be the follower, but we have it all the way around. So what the HeartMath has done in such a brilliant way is to bring all this research, and it has shown us how to listen to the heart, how to bring wisdom from the heart so that we can operate in that matter in the world. And yeah, starting with them was transformational. And ever since, I've been using HeartMath with all of my clients and in my life when I'm confused, when I don't know, when I want to give a presentation like today, I'm making sure that I'm letting the heart lead the conversation so that it is not all intellectual, that it's really felt. So, yeah.
Thank you for that explanation. You know what I love about this heart math is that it brings some quantifiable and maybe even qualifiable like handles on the frou-frou stuff, the touchy emotional stuff. When we say lead from your heart, it feels like, yeah, it's like all emotional. So like what kind of place does that have in corporate, intellectual, that kind of world? And it kind of gives us a language to talk about it. One of the things that I love to, that I really kind of helped me like own, like this is some legitimate things, is that one of the research says that we always think that the brain sends more signals to the heart, but they say that the heart actually sends a lot more signals to the brain. It makes us think twice about, so what is this like heart thing about, and how do we live out of that place? And so, Seneca, I would love for you to explain to us what is this connection with the heart and the brain, and what's going on there?
Yeah, so it's such an interesting topic to me. I really love talking about this. So on a physiological level, the heart actually has its own intrinsic nervous system. So it's just like you and Paola mentioned, the heart is actually sending a lot more information to the brain than the brain is to the heart. So we used to kind of think that the brain was kind of this command center that just told everything in the body what to do. And then the body was like, okay, I'll do that. But it's totally not at all what we've realized. A lot of this has been discovered through the research of the HeartMath Institute, which is so astounding. So they call this actually the heart brain. And the heart brain, it actually is its own intrinsic nervous system. So it's connected to the brain, but it's its own thing. So the heart is actually able to learn, to feel, to remember all on its own, just like the head brain does. So the heart is actually, it produces its own neurotransmitters. It's able to communicate through the central or through the central nervous system. and through hormonal pathways. So this is just really amazing. And one of the things that's so incredible about this is also connected to the lungs. So when we inhale, our sympathetic nervous system is activated. So this is the part of our nervous system that comes online to kind of turn up the speed on things. In extreme circumstances, when we feel really stressed, it sends us into fight or flight. When we exhale, our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. So this is the part of our nervous system that takes down the volume. It sends us into rest and digest. So we have this constant interplay, this balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And where this gets really interesting is we take the breath with these two elements, and then we take the emotions that we're feeling, the emotional state that we're in, and together these impact our heart rhythm. So specifically, it impacts our heart rate variability. So this is the amount of time in between each heartbeat. And this is a very minute thing. This isn't something that you can just measure by like taking your pulse. You have to have like specialized technologies, which are now widely available. You can get them in like your, my Garmin watch has a heart rate variability detector in it. But anyway, so when we're in states of stress or negative emotions, the signal, so we're talking about the heart is sending all these signals to the brain all the time. When we're feeling stressed, that signal becomes very erratic and irregular and disordered. When we're in states of positive feelings, happy emotions, gratitude, appreciation, that heart rate variability goes into this special type of synergy. And so it what happens is it amplifies and improves all of the body's systems. And the wave becomes this nice, beautiful, smooth wave. And that's called coherence. So we have coherence, which is smooth and nice and ordered, that amplifies everything. And then we have incoherence, which is like we're stressed. And the really amazing thing about this is that this then in turn impacts our cognitive functioning. It actually impacts all of our body systems. But when we're in incoherence, it impacts our higher cognitive functioning. So we don't learn as well. We can't make decisions as well. We can't focus as much. And the inverse, when we're in a lot of coherence, we learn better, we remember better, we think and feel and perform better in our jobs. We have more clarity, more creativity, and actually all of our body functions much better. So just one more little thing I want to add super quick. The amazing thing about this coherence is that, just going back to the function of the heart, the electromagnetic field of the heart, as Paula mentioned, it's actually 60 times more powerful than the electromagnetic field of the brain. So that's kind of how far out you can detect the presence of the heart in the brain using specialized instruments. So the heart is so much wider and more powerful. If I'm in a room and I'm in very deep coherence, in my heart and my brain have this beautiful connection between them, this synergy between them, and you come into the room, your heart will actually come into what's called resonance. So they start syncing up their frequencies together, and you'll go into coherence. Your heart will go into coherence, and you'll start to feel better. It's really incredible. This is all research. This isn't like anything woo-woo that we're just like thinking, in the spiritual sense. This is truly what happens.
Wow. It's fascinating how even the world of spirituality or just emotions are becoming topics that are scientifically and like there's like data being put on this. This is really hopeful for me. And I wonder, and maybe this is something that we can all kind of talk about. This has been happening. It's even before we put words to it, this has been happening. So this is something that we're experiencing and that just has been. So when I talk about like, hey, it's your presence that makes all the difference, it really is that person's presence. Or, you got to lead from the heart. It's not just like this like nice feely saying, but there's some real like factual like truth to that. So I wonder, what are some practical ways that HeartMath shows up in our lives, and what are some practical practices that we can build around this, to really help us?
So the first thing that comes to mind, Lynn, and thank you, Seneca and Paola, for educating us, because a lot of what I have learned in regards to this topic has come from the three of you, and it has made a huge difference. And I'll to start answering Lynn's questions. What are some of the practical things that we can do? We talked about it at the beginning of the show when we launched the show. Was being in a place of mindfulness, and this is something that I have been much more aware in the last couple of years. But I do have to say, because I do want to add to a couple of interesting concepts here. We're talking about coherence, amplifying that frequency, the heart frequency. We're talking about the electromagnetic field, presence. All of that is important in the workplace. And I know that I have personally feel like I have been very successful in the corporate world in many ways, and blessed in so many ways. And obviously I have had some wonderful mentors in the workplace. But I do have to say that when I made the connection of that success to the science of the heart, is when I have now found more that deeper wisdom in what really brings success in the workplace. And let me just make it more tangible what I'm saying, this whole concept of heart math and the science of the heart in the workplace. I have been in meetings with customers and people I lead, where before going into this meeting, I did deep research on their business. I understand what the critical priorities are. I understand all of that. I've done my homework, because I do care how we service our customers. But then once I did the homework, then I stepped into the room, and I'm there in front of these other human beings that have the same deep desires in their heart. They want wellness, they want happiness, they want to do excellent work. And I try to be present and first connect, not just from here, like Seneca talked about, not just that cognitive function, but I drop from my mind to my heart, so that I can be present in that room. And I have made many meetings where I know that the success didn't come just because of any intellectual exchange, but it came because there was a coherence, there was a synergy between the mind brain and the heart brain, the gut brain. Everything came together in beautiful resonance, as you call it, Seneca. And it is real. It is real. It is real.
I love that. Paola, you were
I
saying.
like to mention something very important too, and I love what Vero was saying, that you come into a room, you've done your homework, and now you can trust, you can get into that area of your heart, and I can maybe hear some people listen and be like, well, I would love to do that, but how do I do it if when at home I'm dealing with maybe not a great relationship, or perhaps I'm not having a great relationship with my coworkers. I would love to lead from my heart. I would love to be in that space of coherence. And the HeartMath also talks about the power of resilience. And they talk about resilience as if it was an inner battery. So we imagine like a little battery there. And so the battery gets either charged or it gets depleted. And so the questions that we want to ask ourselves before we go into a meeting, or before we want to show up fully in our hearts, is, how is my inner battery in this moment? In other words, how's my resilience, which they describe as the capacity to prepare for, go through, and overcome crisis or difficulty in life, or whatever it is that is stretching your consciousness, stretching your capacities. So it's very important to know that we need to take care of that inner battery, that inner resilience, and pay attention what gives me energy, what charges my inner battery, and what depletes it. So I love listening to Vero, and she's like, well, I do my homework. I'm there. I'm going to show up. So it sounds like her inner battery is charged. Her resilience is charged, and then the heart can lead the meeting. So I think that's an important distinction. And I always ask myself, I'm not feeling incoherence in this moment. What has depleted my energy? And what do I need to recharge that inner battery so that I can really show up from my heart and not from the monkey mind that gets overwhelmed and all the things that we know.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. What's really clear to me is when I was in training to be a therapist, we learn all of these like techniques, and modes, and but when you're actually practicing, you're not going, okay, now I'm going to do the Ericksonian mode, or like now I'm going into CBT. You don't do that. You show up with a presence, and ultimately it's the presence and the space that you hold for your clients that's really healing. And I wonder if this is giving me verbiage to say, like, maybe it's my heart coherence or my heart's radioactive frequency, right? That's really influencing them. And I think the two questions that you offered, Paola, what has depleted my battery? And what do I need to charge it back up? If we, just in general, if we were all very honest with that answer, right? I think that's the question that I help a lot of my people to really answer honestly. Who are the people, and those are scary answers. Maybe it's my job that's depleting me, and maybe I'm not aligned because I'm not doing what I love, or maybe it's not a humanity forward kind of a job and I don't really believe in its big purpose. Maybe that's why it's depleting me. But like, to really honestly reflect on those two questions: what has depleted my battery, and what do I need to recharge it? What a practical, two practical questions that can help you guide to your next steps. So what are some practices that you guys use to recharge?
So in my case, I think I have, because I've been an athlete all my life. I competed nationally in sports when I was in South America. So I think I was trained definitely of doing something early in the morning, and everything has a schedule. But what's new to me and what helps me charge my body is that obviously this practice of sacred silence. And I'm still learning what it means to be in sacred silence so that I can connect to my higher self and connect to that infinite benevolent force. And so that my heart and my mind, brain, they can be in coherence. But besides that, there are times that and I don't know where I read this quote, that the most successful people are the ones who say no the most. What do I say no to, or what am I saying yes to that I shouldn't be saying yes to, right? Perhaps there are things that I'm doing that are not aligned to my passion and what matters the most to me now. So my time is not time, right? Time is a 3-dimensional construct, right? Is energy. So what am I giving my energy towards or to? So be very mindful of where I'm putting my energy to. And for instance, we all have a day job, the 4 of us. And Lincoln is behind the scenes right now, who's helping with the broadcast, but we all have a day job. But what do we do this? Why do we take the time to really do this outside of what we do during the day? It's because it's so aligned to our heart. It's so aligned to how much we want to do good for the world and bless other people's lives, particularly during these unprecedented times. So those are the things I say yes to. And the other things I'm learning what to say no to. And one last thing that I think is important, because our spirit obviously is important. We have been talking about that in regards to the heart and the mind, but also the body. The body has to be in coherence with your inner world. Yeah, your inner world and your outer world. So I make sure that I make time to exercise. I completely do. When the body is healthy, I feel that also affects the mind, the heart, and everything else.
Yeah, that is so true. Holistic wellness is so real. You can't be sick and not kind of depressed. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
nobody's like, I feel amazing when their body is crippled, you know, and so it is very, very intrinsically connected. How about you, Seneca? Can you offer us some practical how-tos?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, the first step is really knowing what is my true north. Like, it's a lot like what Veronica just said. Am I, I really value bringing goodness into the world, bringing, humanity into its higher potential, this incredible growth and emotional, spiritual raising that's happening across all of humanity right now. And like, I really want to be aligned with that. And even on a moment to moment basis, just being aware of, am I in alignment with that true north or am I not? What can I do to shift myself? Because I'm really committed to that. And that has an element of being really aware of what's happening in my body. Like, what am I feeling? Like, my heart has all these feelings in it. Am I shutting them down? I mean, one of the things that I want to be careful with around this is that we hear this, oh, if I have negative emotions, then I'm going to go out of coherence. I'm going to harm my body. I'm going to create this negative field. And while we do want to be careful to, be attuned to that and be aware of that, we also, it's a real gift to have this full spectrum of emotions that we've been given. They're all a gift. And when we're not allowing ourselves to experience something, even if it's on the negative end, we kind of lock it in place and then it's constantly operating in the background. So that's one thing that happens. The other thing that happens is if I shut down my negative emotions, I also shut down my positive emotions. It's kind of like a blanket. You can't just pick and choose. So if we dampen one thing, we dampen everything. So if we actually allow ourselves to feel and be present with ourselves and feel all of our emotions, they'll just run through us. And then it doesn't have this whole negative impact. It doesn't have this negative impact on our health, on our stress that ends up leading to high blood pressure, to strokes, all of these things that the research tells us. Prolonged stress leads to these very real, serious health consequences for ourselves. They're physical, mental, and emotional health consequences. So when I let myself sit with, wow, I'm really sad. These things are happening in the world. They're making me feel really sad. And I can feel that sadness. Then I also, when something really great happens, I have the full capacity to feel all of that joy, which is so much more than what we're necessarily feeling sometimes when we're kind of dampening the whole thing. So that's a really big part of my emotional health for me, is letting myself feel the full spectrum of emotions and just letting them run through my body. I don't have to be afraid of them. It's very healthy to do that. And then when I am kind of stuck, because we all get stuck sometimes, I love using these beautiful HeartMath tools to bring me back into coherence. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of hanging out in this for too long. This is like not good. I need to shift. And I want to be like connecting with people. I want to be bringing goodness in. Then I love to use these tools. They're really incredible. That you engage the breath and you engage the emotions together, and that changes your coherence.
I love this idea about this emotional scale, because this is so true. We unconsciously, we numb or we minimize, we use the psychological defense mechanisms to shut out the feelings that are hurting us or that are painful for us. And what we don't realize is we shut them out like this. If we don't want to feel the bad, then we can't feel the good. And it kind of enlarges like this. It's like an accordion. So yeah, that courage to like just trust that it's not going to hurt me is so necessary for the fullness of life. One thing that I remember is, I don't know where I learned this, but pictures and images of water, nature, whether it's real or fake, just pictures and images of water, nature, pets, and babies. Those are 4 things that just universally just elevates like the thing in the heart. I don't even know what it's called, but it elevates maybe the electromagnetic waves, or that raises our vibrations, right? But they say that it's proven that just universally, those 4 things remind us of unconditional love or something bigger than us, where we can anchor our hope. And those things positively and absolutely genuinely make us feel better overall. And so that's one thing that I remember. Yeah.
And
Paola, can
Lynn,
you offer us? Uh-huh.
oh no, no. Well, I just want to say something quickly, Lynn, because you talked about the heart and allowing ourselves to feel everything, right?
Mm.
And I thought of something that the heart really has a wisdom, and
Mhm.
those emotions, whether it's we're experiencing temporary suffering, whatever that is, it is a wisdom that we are experiencing them because we need to experience them, right?
Right.
So we almost have to sit with it, accept it. I could even say embrace it because it's leading us to the next stage of our evolution. What do we call this, Paola? Evolutionary, conscious evolution, right? And so it's the good and the bad that it all has a place in this conscious evolution. And it's also this concept that even in those moments that we're sitting that are difficult, I tell myself always, this too shall pass. This
Mm.
too shall pass, and it's part of life. And
Yeah,
it's
that's
the heart. The heart has this intelligence, and this intelligence is just wisdom for a life. Is our GPS.
right. Mhm. I love that.
Mm. You know, when you guys were talking about feeling your emotions, I love the concept of emotional hygiene.
Mm,
We,
mhm,
we shower every day, we brush our teeth, but we very little cleanse inside. And emotional hygiene could look in so many different ways. It depends on who you are, honoring the emotions, using the heart math techniques, and going back a little bit to what I was talking about, resilience and the inner battery. They
mhm,
also, I remember in class, they taught us this analogy of a boat and a boat floating on water. And then imagine that the boat has holes, little holes. You know, at the beginning it might not be too relevant, but you know, after a while the boat will start sinking. So another way to obtain this emotional hygiene is to, where are some holes in my life that I can plug so that I don't sink, that
mm.
I can be this resilient being that I am, that I can use the coherence and the wisdom of the heart. So yeah, you guys brought that back to me, that concept of emotional hygiene and plugging in the holes in of our lives. And one of my, well, I mean, HeartMath has like a maybe main 5 techniques, but my favorite one is the one that you place, well, all of them, you place all of your awareness on your heart, and then you can breathe in the count of 5, inhale and exhale in the count of 5. And then as you're doing that, you don't even have to be meditating. You can be doing this walking. I've done this so many times before going to class and when I'm driving. And the words that I'm repeating to myself as I'm breathing into my heart are inner ease,
Mm.
inner ease. And I just not only think about the words, but I tap into that feeling tone. What does inner ease mean to me? And how would my day go if I were to walk, if I were to talk, if I were to think with that feeling tone of inner ease? And we just breathe it in, inner ease, breathe out inner ease. Those two things, breathing and thinking and feeling inner ease, it works like magic. It's
Mm.
another technique of emotional hygiene.
Uh-huh. Paula, so before we end, I'm wondering, I'm kind of just throwing this at her at this moment, but if you can just lead us into like a minute or two or of just inner ease or some kind of magical heart math practice.
Yeah. Well, yes. So inner ease is amazing. And there's another one that is called the freeze frame technique. And this one in particular, it's again another one of my favorite, because if you have a question, if people trigger you or a situation is triggering you, and you want to know what is the fastest way to go back to coherence, you can do this technique. Once you're in coherence, we're going to ask a question, and it takes minutes. It might take 2 minutes. You can ask a question, and it's so interesting how the heart always knows. Now, here's the interesting part about the heart. The heart is wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
and it always has a very simple answer. The mind is the one that has complexity, that has all of these ways in the house, and it can get very complicated in the mind. But whenever we tap into the heart's wisdom, to that coherence, and you ask the question, you'll see that it's always incredibly simple and profound at the same time. Now, simple doesn't mean easy for the mind, but simple means that simple. It has that elegance of simplicity. So sure, I would love to do that. Should I go ahead and do it right now?
Yes,
Or do we want to do
yes.
something else? Okay, beautiful. So very simple. We're just gonna close our eyes. You don't even have to close your eyes if you can't, if you're driving or walking. You can do this anywhere. And so I want you to start breathing a little slower and a little deeper than you usually do it. And when you start breathing a little slower and a little deeper, I want you to know that when you slow down your breath, you're sending a signal to your body that it is okay to let go. Now I'm going to count to 5 for a couple of sets. And you're going to inhale in 5 and you're going to exhale in 5 counts. So inhale in 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale in 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, as you're keeping that rhythm of breath, I want you to imagine that you have a little nose in the center of your heart. And with your imagination, you're going to imagine that you can breathe through your heart. Now, the next step is I want you to think about someone or something that makes you feel deep appreciation. Just bring into your mind's eye something in your life that when you think about it, a feeling tone of deep appreciation comes to you. And I want you to breathe that feeling tone of appreciation through your heart. Exhale appreciation out the heart. Now in this moment, I want you to ask your heart, next time I am triggered by something, or by this particular situation, tell me one word, one phrase, something I can tell myself to go back to center. And allow yourself to go with the first thing that your heart says. One word that you can tell yourself to go back to the center, to your heart. We're going to breathe one more time. And you're going to exhale. And very slowly, when you are ready, you can open your eyes if you had them closed. And I just did the steps fairly quick to respect the time over call, but you might want to stay a little longer. Breathing in 5 counts, that's the first step. You might want to stay there for a moment, with 5 minutes. Then when you bring appreciation into your heart, you might want to stay there a little longer until you feel the appreciation, and then you ask your question and wait. So I'm curious, Did you guys get anything?
I did. It was so beautiful. Thank you so much, Paula. It was just like this beautiful flash, and it just said softness. So sweet. Yeah.
Mine was compassion.
Beautiful.
Mine was the old cliche, but powerful. Loved.
Yeah. Loved with ED.
Loved with the ED. Done. Ditto.
Awesome. And what's beautiful about the answer is that each one of you knows what that means to you in this
Yes.
particular moment of your life.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, Paula. And thank you, everybody, for staying with us for a couple of extra more minutes. So here's our collective blessing that you may experience more sacred moments of silence, that you may say more sacred no's and make ways for sacred yeses, that you would move into a mind, body, soul coherence where you exercise more and you may know your true north. And expand your emotional accordion and practice good emotional hygiene. And through it all, may you stay coherent and aligned to your heart, the core of who you are. Join us next week, every week, Friday at 2 p.m. for more 30 minutes or maybe 36 minutes of wisdom. All right, guys. Bye now.
Bye.